Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to all our students for class 9. Now I have shared some instruction. Don't raise hand during the teaching. Ask questions at the end of the session only on chat box. Use hand free if you are using mobile and headphone for computer use. Feed your ID and password properly with your name and class. Take care of time for attending the class. Home task should be done in your fair copy of the subject. If there is any disconnectivity during the teaching, try to join teaching again with the 5 to 10 minutes. Now I have shared the steps of screenshot. For taking screenshot of your computer screen, follow these steps. Identify and press the print screen button which is placed above numeric keys. Open Paint software, then press Ctrl V, then press Ctrl S and save it in your computer. For taking screenshot, throw your smartphone, search the steps of the taking screenshot on the Google. Now, this is a selected topic of the Board of Secondary Education. First one is basic terminologies of the data communication, components of the communication system, properties of good communication system, basis of the computer network, and fundamental of the topologies. Now, we have started the unit number 4, data communication and the computer network. No, first one is basic terminologies of the data communication. There are following basic terminologies of the data communication. Number 1 is data. Number 2 is data communication. Number 3 is the data transmission. Number 4 is analog signals. Number 5th is digital signals. Number 6 is the data rate, bit rate. Number 7 is bound rate, and number 8 is the signal to noise ratio. Now, first one is the data. What is data? The word data is derived from the Latin language. It is a plural term of the terms, but data is usually used a single term. Data is any collection of facts or figures. The data is the raw material to be processed by the computer. Collection of raw facts and figures is called data. The word data is derived from the Latin language and it plural of the term. The text, numbers, symbols, images, voice, and video which are processed by the computer and the digital devices are called data. Data can be considered as unprocessed information. For example, names of students, marks obtained in the examination, designation of the employees, addresses, quantity, rate, sales, figure, or anything that is input in the computer is called data. Even pictures, photographs, drawings, charts, and map can be portrayed as the data computer processing to the data and the process to the output or the result. Mainly data is divided into two types. Number 1 is numeric data. Number 2 is character data. First one is numeric data. The numeric data which is represented in the form of the numbers is known as the numeric data. This includes 0 to 9 digits and decimal point, dot, plus, multiply and division sign. And then letter E or D, the numeric data is further divided into two groups. Number 1 is integer data. Number 2 is real data. Integer data is the form of the whole number. It doesn't contain a decimal point. However, it may be positive or negative numbers. For example, population of Pakistan, numbers of passengers traveling in the airplanes, numbers of the student in the class, numbers of the computer in a lab, etc. Real data. Real data is the form of the fraction numbers. It contains a decimal point. It can also be positive or negative number. Real data is further divided into two types: fixed point data and floating point data. Fixed point data may include digits 0 to 9 and decimal point plus minus sign. For example, percentage of marks, weight, quantity, temperature, etc. Floating point. Floating point data may include digits 0 to 9, decimal point plus minus sign, and letters D, E. The data which is in the exponential form can be represented in the floating point notation. Example of these data are speed of the light, mass of the atomic particles, distance between star and etc. These values can be fed into the computer as 1.62 respectively. Now, character data. Character data falls into two groups: string data, graphical data. String data consists of the sequence of the character. Character may be English alphabets, numbers, or space. These space which separates two words in also character. The string data is the further divided into two types: alphabetic data and alphanumeric data. Number one is alphabetic data. The data which is composed of the English alphabets is called alphabetic data. Names of the people, name of the place, name of item, and the considered alphabets. Alphanumeric data. The data that consists of the alphabetics as well as numerical and some special characters is called alphanumeric data. Datas. Employees scores, etc. are the alphanumeric data. Graphical data. It is a possible to pictures, chart, and map can be treated as data. The scanner is normally used in the enter these types of data. The common use of this data is found in the national identity card, the photographics and thumbs impression, and the scan in the store in the computer to identify a person. Now, second is the data communication. Data communication refer to the exchange of the data between a source and the receiver via form of the transaction media such as wires, cables. Data communication is said to be local of the communicating devices are into the same building or a similarly struck geographical area. The meaning of the source and receiver are the very simple. The devices that transmit the data is known as the source, and the device that receive the transmitted data is known as the receiver. Data communication aims at the transfer of the data and the data and maintenance of the data during the processing, but not the actual generation of the information at the source and receiver. Done means the facts, information, statistics, or the like drives by the calculation of the experimentation. The facts and the facts and information so gathered and processed in the accordance with defined system of the procedure. Data can exist in the variety of the forms such as numbers, text, bits, and bytes. The figures is an installation of the simple data communication system. The term data use is a describe information under whatever for the word you will be using. A data communication system may collect data from the remote location, third data transmission circuit, and then output process result to the remote location. Figure provides a broader view of the data communication networks. The different data communication techniques which are the presently in the widespread use in the involved gradually either to the improve the data communication techniques already existing or to replace the same with better options and the features. Then there are There are data communication uh, jargon to the content with the such as the bound rate, modems, routers, LANs abbreviation is local area network. WANs where is a wide area network. TCP, IP, and I say during the selection of the communication system. Hence, it becomes necessary to review and understand these terms and the gradual development of data communication method. Data communication is the process of transferring data electrically from one place to another. It It is the process of exchange of data and information between two parties such as human and the electronic or the computing device. Third is the data transmission. What is the data transmission? Data transmission refer to the process of transferring data between two or more digital devices. Data is two more digital devices. Data is transmitted from the one device to another is in analog or digital format. Basically, data transmission enable devices or the components within devices to speak to each other. How data is transferred into the form of bit between two or more digital devices. There are two methods used in the transmit data between digital devices, serial transmission and parallel transmission. Serial transmission send data bit one after another over a single channel. Parallel data transmission sends multiple data bits at the same time over multiple channels. First one is a serial transmission. When data is sent or received use serial data transmission, the data bits are organized into a specific order since they can only be sent on the after another. The order of the data bits is important as the detects how to transmission is organized when it is received. It views as a reliable data transmission method because a data bit is only sent if the previous data bit has already been received. Serial transmission has two classification. Uh, Number one is asynchronous serial transmission and the synchronous serial transmission. First one is asynchronous. Data bit can be sent at any point of the in time. Stop bit and start bit are used to between the data bytes to synchronize the transmitter and the receiver and to ensure that the data is transmitted correctly. The time between sending and receiving data bits in not content. So gaps are used to provide time between the transmission. The advantages of the using the asynchronous method is that there's no synchronous is synchronization is required between the transmitter and receiver devices. It also more the cost effect method. A disadvantage is that transmission can be slower, but this is not always the case. Synchronous data bits are transmitted as a continuous stream in the time with the master clock. The data transmitter and receiver both operate using as a synchronous clock frequency. Therefore, start bits, stop bits, and gaps are the not used. This means that data movies faster and the timing error are less frequent because the transmitter and the receiver time is the cynic. However, data accuracy is highly depend on the timing being synchronized correctly between devices. In comparison uh, with the asynchronous serial transmission, this method is usually more expensive. Serial transmission is normally used for the long distance data transfer. It is also used to cases where the amount of data being sent the relatively small. It ensures that data integrity is maintained as it transmits the data bits in a specific order, one after another. In this way, data bits are received in sync with one another. When the data is sent using parallel data transmission, multiple data bits are transmitted over multiple channels at the same time. This means that data can be sent much faster than using serial transmission method. Give data multiple bits are send our multiple channels at a same time. The order in which a bit string is received can be depend on various conditions, such as the proximity to the data source, use location, and bandwidth availability. Two example of the parallel internet interface can be seen blue. In the first parallel interface, the data is sent and received in the correct order. In the second parallel interface, the data is sent in the correct order, but some bits were received faster than the other. Next is the analog signals. Analog signal is any continuous signal for which is varying feature of the signal is the representation of the some other varying quantity analogs to another varying signal. For example, in an analog advice signals, the instance voltage of the signal varies continuously with the pressure of the sound waves. It differs from the digital signal in which the continuous quantity representation of the sequence of the discrete values which can only take on a one of the finite number of the value. The term analog signal usually refer to the electrical signals. However, mechanical, pneumatic, hydraulic, and other systemic may also convey or be considered along the signals. And analog signals use some property of the medium to convey the signal information. For example, an right barometer use the rotary position as the signal of the convey pressure information. In an electrical signal, the voltage, current, or frequency of the signal may be varied to the represent to the information. Any information may be conveyed by an analog signal, such as the signal may be measure responses to the changes in a physical variable, such as sound, light, temperature, position, or the pressure. The physical variable is converted to any analog signals by a transitioner. For example, sound striking the diaphragm of the microphone induce corresponding uh, fluctuation in the current produced by the coil in a electromagnetic microphone on the voltage processed by the conditioner microphones. The voltage or the current is said to be an analog on the sound. Next is the digital signals. A digital signal is a signal that is being used to the represent data as a sequence of the discrete values at any given time. It can only take on the at most one of the fine numbers of the values. This contrasts with in the analog signal, which represented continuous values at any given time in the represent a real number within a continuous range of the value. Simple digital signals represent information in a discrete bands of the analog level. All level within band of the values represent the same information status. In most digital circuit, the signal can have two possible valid values. This is called a binary signals or logical signals. They are represented by the two voltage band. One near of the reference values typically terms as ground or 0 volts, and the other are value near the supply voltage. These correspond to the two values 0 and 1, or the false and true, or the Boolean domain. So at any given time, a binary signal represents one binary digit bits. Because of this disgregation, relatively small changes to the analog signals label do not leave the disgrace involved, and as a result as ignored by the signal status sensing circuitry. As a result, digital signals have noise eminently. Electronic noise provide it not to grade will not to affect digital circuit where noise always degrades the operation of the analog signals to the some degree. Digital signals have more than Digital signal has have more than two states and the occasionally use circuitry use such a signal is called the multi-valued logic. For example, signals that can assume three possible states are called three values logic. In a digital signal, the physical quantity representing the information may be a variable current, electric current or voltage. The intensity phase of the polarization of an optical or other electromagnetic field, acoustic pressure, and the magnetization of a magnetic storage media, etc. Digital signals are the use in all digital electronics, notably away computing equipment and the data transmission. Next is a differentiate between analog and digital computers. First one is an analog computer. Analog signals is continuous waves that change by the time period. And digital computer, a digital signals is discrete waves that carries information in binary form. Analog signals has no fixed range. Analog signals no fixed range, and the digital signals has a fine numbers 0 and 1. Analog signals analog si- and analog signals can easily be disturbed by other signals or waves. A digital signals is less once the other signals disturbance. Analog computer, the human voice is example of the analog signals, and the digital are signals used by the computer. Signals used by the computer are the digital signals. An analog signals is represented by the sense waves, and the digital signals is represented by the sequence waves. Analog signals are long-term waves need to be boosting, and digital signals are short-term signals remains within digital devices electronics. Next is the data rate and bit rate. The data rate is the term to denote the transmission speed or the number of the bits per second transferred. The useful data rate for the user in usually less than the actual data rate transported on the network. One reason for this is that additional bits are transferred. For example, signaling the address of the recovering of the timing information at the receiver or error correction to the compensates for the possible transmission error. In telecommunication, it is a common used to express the data rate in the bits per second, bit second, C bit rate. In data communication, the data rate is often expressed in the byte per second, BS. Next is the bound rate. The bound rate is the rate at the which information is transferred in a communication channels. Bound rate is commonly used when discussing electronics that use serial communication in the serial port context. To a 9600 bounds means that the serial port is capable of the transferring and the maximum of the 9600 bits per second. At bound rate about 76,800, the cable length will need to the reduced. The higher the bound rate, the more sensitive the cable become to the quality of the installation due to the how much of the wires is unpaced around each device. Single to noise ratio SNR or SN is a major use in science and engineering that compare the level of the desired signals to the level of the background noise. SNR is defined as the ratio of the signal power to the noise power, often expressed in decibel. A ratio higher than 1 ratio 1 greater than 0 to B indicates more signal than noise. Next is what is the difference between bit rate and bound rate? Bit rate and bound rate. Bit rate tell the numbers of bits transmitted per unit of the time second, and bound rate is used when we want to know the number of the signal units transmitted per unit of the time second. Bit rate is the number bits 0 and 1 transmitted per second. Bound rate is the number of the time a signal is traveling. Compares of the bit, one signal can be represent more than one bit. Bit rate, bound rate as the numbers of the bit per signal unit. Bound rate is equal to bit rate divided by the numbers of the bit per signal unit. Next is the home task. Now we have shared the home task. First question is explain basic terminologies of the data communication. First is explain basic terminologies of the data communication. Second is differentiate between analog and digital signals. Question number 2 is differentiate between analog and digital signals. Third is the differentiate between bound rate and data rate. Third is the differentiate between bound rate and data rate. Now, I have repeat the home task, explain basic terminologies of the data communication, differentiate between analog and digital signals, and third is a differentiate between bound rate and the data rate. Okay, sir, student, thank you and Allah.